You're listening to the IMT Show with Mike Sims. Now here is your host.
How do I say it? The ultimate in the modern scientific thought that man is a brain, and therefore you have, if he's thinking anything wrong, there's something structurally wrong in his neural network of the brain. And the reason this is a satire is because it completely and utterly disregards man as a spirit, a spiritual being.
Right.
It completely says, well, take a computer. It computes, it gives right answers. You could put it in a robot and make the robot work right. But there's no one there. There's no one home. And this is something that I am myself pretty passionate about, that there is someone home.
Right.
There is a conscious, aware being that does reason, does understand, does have thoughts and emotions that cannot be explained if you just look into a computer or a brain and say that that's where the answers are.
Right.
It would be like taking a radio that's broadcasting something bad and trying to fix the radio to solve the person who's saying bad things. You know what I mean? It's a materialistic look at things. So anyway, that's a kind of a long-winded explanation of that, but
it's interesting.
It's really, it's pretty humorous, really. You know, if you and that's all I'll say about it.
Well, you know, there was something that somebody had illustrated one time that got me thinking a lot. Was they took a piece of paper and they drew a dot on each corner of the paper. And if you stare at the center of the paper, eventually one or two of those dots disappear. Because your brain knows that nothing has changed in your peripheral vision. So it shuts off that information and hides it from you.
True.
And and it really bugged me that if your brain is turning off things that it normally knows about, then what else is it turning off? So
yeah, it's like someone with I am right disorder. They're turning off anything that would make them wrong. I mean, you look at it, some of the absurd arguments that we all get into. You get hung up on proving your point, and you're not willing to look at anything.
Right.
Yeah, the contrary facts just disappear.
Right.
Just like dots on a paper, I guess you could say.
Interesting. So so you got you've also got total amnesia, which is that an expansion of the brainography?
Yes, it is. This is my baby. This is my favorite book. And here's my whole genesis of this work is that, like I said, I believe passionately that man, you, me, anyone you talk to, is natively a spiritual being. Okay. And they have a body, but they aren't it. Okay. So my whole reasoning here is, okay, so if that is true, then why as a spirit couldn't you just leave it? Right? If you're not it. So I came up with a whole bunch of solutions to this. And the total amnesia, the whole meaning of this is that we've all been around forever. I mean, and if that were so, and and an addendum to that is, if we've all been around forever, we know a whole lot more than we know right now, right?
Okay.
We would at least know that we've been around forever, but we don't. Why don't we know?
Right.
Why on earth don't we know? Why don't we know why we are here? I mean, we've got tons of theories and religions, and viewpoints and everything, but how many people actually know, one, why they're here, how they got here, and are at cause over where they're going, Well, nobody.
Right.
And there's a lot of excuses for that, but I say there's no excuse. You should know. Because you should know who you are, where you've been, how you got here, where you're going. You should. And wouldn't it be nice if you did? So total amnesia means that you as a spirit are completely have forgotten your past. But not only that, you've been made to forget. Well, how do you get made to forget? How are you given amnesia? Well, that's what this book covers. And it has to do with things that have happened in the past, in your past, that you've forgotten. And so I go, well, how can a person then remember this? What would they do? And I came up with this whole story. And has to do with I run into someone who is actually considered a free spirit. And when I say a free spirit, I mean free. A person is not, as a spirit, restricted by the material universe around them. They float free of it, I guess you could say. So if you want to go to the moon, you go to the moon, And if you want to come back, you come back. And if you want to anything, if you want to have a body, you can have a body. If you don't want to have a body, you don't have to have a body. It's completely and utterly up to you. So I run into this spirit, I guess you could say, who actually appears in the form of a body. And she's very, very upset because all these spiritual beings, all these people have been compressed into a body, into a brain, into an atmosphere, onto a planet, and they don't know how they got here. And she's been trying forever to explain to these people, look, you are free of this. You are a spiritual being. You don't have to be stuck in this thing. And she could never, ever, ever get it across to people. In fact, she's even gone to various planets and civilizations and appeared in the form of a deity and, thrown thunderbolts in the sky. Spirit can do that, by the way. All they got to do is create some energy. But, and been worshipped and told this gospel that you are a free spirit and you have been trapped in here by various mechanisms. And so you need to, and people just don't get it. They just don't understand. Their amnesia is too great.
So are you saying that your supposition is maybe that somebody has like a reincarnation, has a past life, and when they enter into a new body, they're misaligned with their spirit, so it doesn't remember that until they get aligned. The block kind of fits in the right peg, so to speak.
Yeah, they are literally given amnesia. Now, how do they do that? That's the question that is literally answered in the book. And the way it is answered is, and it's really interesting. The person I run into has a device that's like Google universe, you know. You got Google Earth, where you can go anywhere on the earth, anywhere, right? And see what's there. Well, this thing is Google universe. And she shows me what is done to confine a free spirit in and trap them, essentially. They call them trap ships, and they enclose a person in energy, a free spirit, and they become trapped. And then they can be injected into a mind, into a body. You know, it's kind of interesting. But she shows me a trap ship, basically, that does this, that they actually put out a beautiful light show and entice free spirits in the area, and then they capture them. Okay. But the thing is, when I see this, in the book, I just completely freak out. And I start saying, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. Get me out of here. And I just go psychotic. And she goes, wow, that's interesting. So he sees this and he freaks out. It's obviously because this has happened to him long, long ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't freak out like that. There's no reason to. Wow, that must mean that entrapment is still within him, and that is partially why he is still entrapped. So he started looking at it, and he freaked out, but he also seemed to get over it. Well, maybe you can show the person all the things in their past, the traumatic events, and have them recognize it and get them and free them from it, which is kind of what happens in the book. And there's a certain method of doing it. But I don't know if that makes sense to you, but yeah, it's full of very philosophic discussions with someone who's free as a spirit, you know.
Interesting.
Like, you know, and it contains a real interesting description of the mind, which has nothing to do with the brain, incidentally.
Right.
Which most people would, you know, do not believe, but it's a very good explanation if you're really interested in understanding the mind.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's the thing I like about it is I believe people should be free, spiritually free. I believe it, and I believe that they should know. And I don't believe in you necessarily have to take somebody's word for it on how to be free. You need to find out for yourself. And how do you find out for yourself? Well, this is a way of finding out for yourself. And you know, because you know, any prophet who tells you the quote truth, if you don't know, then how can you possibly tell if they are right or wrong? You know,
right? Exactly.
You intrinsically can't know. So really, your destiny, your future, your eternity as a spiritual being ahead of you is up to you. You know, and it's up to you to find out. So this is a suggestion that, well, maybe there's a way for you to find out. Just you.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It maybe I'll just, you know, it's just science fiction. It's totally speculation, but it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, that's my whole philosophy in life is that if I may not have the answers, but if I can provoke people to think about things, maybe they'll find the answer.
Exactly.
You know, and maybe I'm just that link in the chain.
Yeah, and that's really, you know, if you look at the genre of science fiction, I mean, it's saying, what if? take a look at this. What if, and how many incredible inventions and advances in mankind has come from that simple postulate, like what if?
Right.
And I love to ask what if.
Yep. It's there's no imagination has no end, and it's you know, and my whole thinking is that, you know, reality is based on perception. You know, somebody made it real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that we're I mean it has worked so well with the material sciences. We have advanced incredibly, you know, but it has not been, it seems to be all opinion and some kind of somebody else said when it comes to spiritual technology. And I believe that spiritual technology can be just as exact and just as successful as scientific technology, you know,
yeah,
material technology. And this is kind of my way of saying that, really.
right. Well, you even you know, if you listen to quantum physics, you feel like you're in a religious meeting.
It's true, isn't it?
It's just talking about, you know, that what's known here is known across the universe at the exact same time, and you know, it's very very interesting concepts they have.
Yeah, and you know, I am not arrogant enough to think that, you know, we here on this tiny itty bitty teeny weeny little planet on a little corner of the universe know everything. You know, we just don't. And we know what we know, but we've, like I was, like the book I was explaining earlier, like the gold slaves, you know, we were kind of trapped in this small little viewpoint, you know. But
Yeah,
if you kind of consider, well, it's not all material bounds that we need to address. Not, you know, like how do you get 20 million miles away on that to a planet or something like that? What if you as a spirit can find out these things, you know?
right.
And you won't be, and if you're dependent on the material universe around you, you're pretty restricted. I mean, there's not much we can do.
Right. Yeah, has to be measured and tested and understood and in those forms.
Yeah, and I believe that the science of the spirit can be equally as exact as the material sciences, and that's kind of my, if you were to call it my general theme of everything I do, that's kind of where I'm at. You know, brainography is saying, look, you are not a brain, you are a spirit that makes decisions and perceives what the brain perceives, you know, through the brain, but you're the one who runs it. You're the one pushing the buttons.
Right.
So
Everything, everybody sees it through the filter of their mind and
yes,
what they
and we
think.
all, and honestly, we all got, I mean, the brain is pretty good because it gives everybody a uniformly agreeable set of perceptions. You know, everybody sees the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've had two people that had been on the same road to witness the same thing, but they tell two different stories about it.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just it's, you know, it's odd how it works.
That's true, but I think that has to do with, you know, how they decide to see things, you know.
Yeah.
In other words, you got a compute, say you got a bank full of computers on here. Well, you can perceive, you can, and they all give you exact data, right? But you decide how you perceive it, right? You decide how to evaluate and judge it. You decide what your opinion is of it or what you don't want to look at. And because of that, everybody has a different opinion. You know?
Right.
But honestly, if every single computer was connected to a network, it would be uniformly in agreement, because
Yeah.
it's a totally physical thing. It doesn't have opinions. A computer doesn't have an opinion of anything. It could sit there with the answer to life. It could, the answer to global warming could be sitting on a computer, and it couldn't care less that it had the answer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get nervous. It doesn't worry. If nobody ever sees it, it doesn't matter. So it's the material universe is pretty much, it does what it does, and it doesn't matter.
Right. 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 It takes something to process it out correctly, and something beyond just what a computer can do.
Yeah. So the person as a spirit looks at it and then evaluates it and thinks about it and, does what they do with it, So they look at the answer on the computer and go, oh my God, we can solve it with this, and they love it, and they go off and they take to be kind of silly, they take their body and get another computer and make this mechanism that the computer says to make.
Thank you for listening to the IMT show with Mike Sims. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The IMT show is an opinion show and not to be taken as serious personal, legal, tax or financial advice. It is meant as entertainment only. IMT show, Mazarov or Mike Sims is not responsible for ad content. For more information on show schedules and content, visit www.mazarov.net/IMT.